everyone. Welcome to the new Systemic Lives podcast. Sometimes with me, Sheila Rashid, and sometimes with Gail Simon. We have the pleasure of talking with some leading international and national systemic contributors about their lives, loves, and what brought them to systemic practice. Do watch on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast feed. Hosted by Murmurations, Journal of Transformative Systemic Practice at systemiclives.com.
Hello, Justine. Welcome.
Hi, Gail.
You know, this is quite a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk with you. For those who are listening, watching, this is Justine van Lawick, a dear friend of mine, an esteemed colleague in the systemic community, in the history of the systemic community. And it's great to have this opportunity to talk with you today about you, your life, the systemic field, changes you've seen over time, influences you've been able to take advantage of, have access to, influences you've made, and your wishes, your hopes. Maybe we can talk a bit about your research as well.
Okay, maybe. It's also a great opportunity for me, and we are here together.
Yeah, we're here together.
I'm in Yorkshire, and I love it.
We've had some nice walks, haven't we?
We had great walks.
Yeah, been out in the hills, on the moors.
Clean air.
Lots of clean
Wonderful panoramas.
And I think we'll do a walk after this as well. So now we can sit and talk and get lost in conversation.
Yeah.
And then we'll go
get lost in a walk.
Yeah, get lost on the moors somewhere.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So I'm going to ask some questions. And I'm going to start in a very asystemic way, in a very linear, chronological way, though, of course, we might end up jumping around. And if I ask you something and you think that's not quite the right question, or you don't like the direction of travel or focus, please will you just interject and take me where you would like the story to go. Yeah, good.
Okay, good.
Good. Well, you know, it's interesting to know where people were born and what kind of era and culture they were born into, what was happening in the world at that time, not just within your family, but within the world in which your parents, your family was also living. Can you say a bit about that?
Yeah, I can say that. And I've nothing against linear, because we are also both interested in archiving our lives and also from our ancestors and things like that. And I think these lines come also into the complexity of circular movements, but I have nothing against linear thinking. It's also important to start with. When it's not cause and effect, of course, but we need lines. I was born in The Hague, in the Netherlands, and I'm born in the post-war generation, so 1950. And I think later on I understand how much the influence was coming from a post-war generation. About never throwing food away, about caring for the environment, and this never again idea. We should never again in Europe was very important. There was a lot about drinking milk, which was good for everybody. There was a lot about food, actually. And I was born in a family that loved to bring people together in dinners at the table with good wine and good food. That was also important. I can remember those dinners very well.
And what is it about the dinners you remember?
It's also that my parents brought together people that were in conflict. And they thought, when we bring them together at the table with good food and wine, and we have good conversations together, we can help them to find a way to get on with this. And for them, this was what they did again and again in the family with friends. There's a movie around that. But I cannot remember the name now. Also a woman that did that, bringing people from a village together with good wine and food, and then the conflicts calm down.
So, as part of those conversations, did as systemic therapists, we have an idea that we need to ask particular questions in order to help, support, or prompt change. Did your parents have that idea in those dinners? Was it just about the good food, the good wine, the convening of people, or did they try and help particular parts of the conversation along?
Well, I think yes, but there was gender. So it was the men who talked politics. It was the women that went into the kitchen together, also to clean up, to gossip. We sang in the kitchen. And so my father liked my thinking and reflections. So he often invited me to say something. He did. Yeah, he did.
And how old would you have been at that time?
Well, I think from 12 on, it was very clear that he asked me. But I think even before me, he was in a kind of interested in my thinking and view. But then also with the other there, he really made space for me. What do you think, Justine? And it could be around philosophy, it could be around politic thinking. And then my parents became enthusiastic about anthroposophy, about Rudolf Steiner. So I went into Rudolf Steiner school, which the name was a free school in The Hague, also when I was 12. And before that, I was in a Christian school, and I hated the Christian school where we had to pray all the time, where there was a lot of oppression of many things. I had a bad time there. I was bullied. I didn't like it. And then I went to this free school, and I really blossomed there. So for me, this was a very important switch in my life. And that was where I also changed my name. So I started as Majuska till I was 12, and after that I'm Justine. And this Justine also gave me justice to my feeling. For me, that was a very important, and I wrote a lot then in my journals about wanting to have a better life. And I was very active in creating it. So the strange thing is that there was a big shift going to this free school, doing all kind of art there and theater, going into nature and finding my way. And that's related to Justine, this name. And then I also became part of the community, a popular girl. I had lots of friends. It's a big shift. Yeah.
How do you think you found it in you to change the name, to change the narrative, to change the opportunities? Did it all come from going to the Steiner School? Or was it something else that you saw, something else other people gave you messages about?
Yeah. So I had this introduction talk going to this school, and my parents were there. And my name of birth is Marie-Justine, both of them. And then this teacher that did the introductory talk with me and my parents said, "You have such a beautiful name, Justine. Why do you, Marie-Justine? Why are you named Majuska?" And my parents explained Marie-Justine, we make Majuska combination. And I came home and I thought, I love this name, Justine. And it's my name, and he's right. So I want to change. It was like it was already with me that I wanted to have another life. Mm-hmm. And then the name, it was helpful to change my name as well. Yeah, it was very helpful. And I think from that time on, I found my way. I was this decisive about wanting to have a good life, and that you can. So it was also a practice of hope for me, and that stayed with me until today. It's still there, this feeling of, okay, I can have a good life and I can do things to get there. Yeah. And then it's also related to being in a community, because I'm still in contact with the people, my classmates from then. So
Wow.
it became a very important community for me. Also talking, we had talking groups also in the evening, and we talked about the world, and yeah, we had a lot of initiatives. Yeah.
Do you think your parents had that sense of being able to make a life, to make their own choices?
Yeah, my father is very clear about that, because he had quite a difficult life, and then later on in his life he said, I've such a good life. So he really also created a living that was good. And my mother was less, she was more like following the stream of life. Yeah.
And in terms of, you mentioned religion earlier, that you went to a Christian school. Did you grow up with religion in your family? What was your kind of cultural background?
My mother is the daughter of a Protestant priest. And for her, the church was, of course, she has to go into church 2 times at Sunday and everything. And it's in church school, and Christianity was, of course, in the center of her life. And be a good Christian daughter. And I'm baptized. But my father had a Jewish mother who didn't do anything with that. It was and a father who was an atheist, and he said, I'm raised without religion.
Your father?
Yeah, my father.
How did they agree or disagree then about bringing up children with or without religion? Your parents?
I think they married in the Christian Protestant church. I have everything from their marriage and the texts and everything. And then we are baptized in the Christian church. That's the next step. But then they moved to the Christengemeenschap, which is the church created by Rudolf Steiner, also with priest, and it's totally different church. But I think it was never central in my life. So it was not that we went there every Sunday or things like that. It was not so very much important. But we did Christmas with songs and trees, and that culture was there, but that was everywhere.
What do you think happened then for your parents? That religion became less performative, less present in everyday or every week life in the family?
Made them more free, I think.
But how come they made that choice? Do you think it was?
Well, because they started to read a lot from Rudolf Steiner, where Christ is important, but in another way.
Okay.
And they made a choice more for other things in life, I think. And I think my father was important there because he never felt religious.
Yeah.
So
he was quite an influence then.
Yeah.
Do you think your mother just felt permission to put some of that stuff down?
I think so. And then at Sunday we always walked.
Yeah.
We had the walking ritual always. So we had breakfast, then we went walking, a long walk.
Where would you go walking?
In the dunes, at the sea, at the beach. And then afterward we had some nice food. And I loved it because walking also meant for me having discussions, mainly with my father. We loved to walk together and talk about life and what it was meant to be about politics, about philosophy. So we had this discussion walk. I loved it. Yeah.
And you have some siblings as well.
I have an older sister and 2 younger brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how did you all get on with each other when you were young?
I loved my sister always. So we played that we were twins because we were just 1 year and 4 months in difference. And we played, we were twins. We wanted to be twins. Her friends were my friends and my friends were her friends. And so we were very close together. We are still close together. So that's a very good thing in my life, my sister, Karin. And then the 2 brothers, there was 4 years difference between, and then the brother after me, he had difficulties when he was born. He had a lack of oxygen. He had difficulties in getting to walk and to talk. He was late with everything. And then when he was 9, he got an accident and he was seriously injured. So he always gave a lot of trouble and worries. And my parents were very much concentrated on him.
I see.
That was a big influence. So in a way, I always also had difficulties with him. And then 5 years later, my younger brother, so he's 9 years of difference with me. And I think he was my first baby. I loved to help my mother with the baby and to give him some milk to do his drapers. And I loved to do that.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so what kind of student were you as you grew up, as you were going through school? Did you enjoy school? Were you well behaved? Did you conform? How did you react? Especially, I don't know if you had to make a different transition between Steiner School and then senior school. Yeah. And how did that go? Because a lot of children find those transitions between, for example, Montessori schools, which I know are different, to ordinary mainstream secondary school. So what kind of pupil were you?
No, but the Steiner School was secondary school for me.
It was? It went all the way till you were, 18 or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from Steiner School, I went to university.
Oh, wonderful.
So, but my primary school was the Christian school.
Yeah, and that was
that was a terrible time for me. And I was very often sent away from the class. I talked too much. I was not a good child. I had to pray a lot. Then I had to go on my knees to pray and ask God to forgive me that I was such a terrible child and things like that. I was really angry, I think.
Just say that last sentence again and we'll ask Andre to cut that out. So at the Steiner School, you were saying?
No, the primary school was a terrible time. I think I often was unhappy, angry. I was bullied. I was not feeling well, and I hated school, and I was a bad performer. They said that I couldn't learn well.
Yeah.
Now, later on, my parents were asked to come into the school, and they said, your daughter cannot learn well because she's word blind.
Word blind?
Word blind, dyslexia, but then they said she's word blind. I had very low figures. I hated learning. I thought I was stupid.
Oh my God.
And I really felt, I felt very bad. So,
oh my God.
And yeah.
That's really terrible. So was it because of that your parents transferred you to a different kind of school? Yeah,
that was my rescue, because in the Steiner School, they saw me. They didn't see my performances, they saw me. And from the beginning on, I had teachers there that saw me as a very intelligent, gifted child. It was an incredible change.
Wow.
and they looked at my storytelling and not all the failures that I had in the language. They said, that will come later, no problem. You tell a great story. So this going into theater, doing all kinds of artistic things, being seen as a whole human being, for me was incredible stuff. So I thought, learning can be a joy. So then I started to read, to learn, to get pleasure in it, and my performances went up.
What year was it when you finished at the Steiner School?
It was 1969.
So you were a teenager in Europe at a very important political time, at a very interesting time in terms of the arts and pop music, and so on.
Yeah.
Just say a little bit about what was going on in the wider world as you were becoming a young adult.
Yes, of course, the Beatles and the music and the pop music, and wearing very short, the hot pants. I did that.
What color hot pants did you have?
I had the light green and the yellow ones.
Oh.
and then I loved all those, but it became much stronger when I entered university. Because I was having a room then, I was outside of the house, and I could break free, being a lot in going out, starting to be political, to finding out the politics, being later on a hippie. The flower power movement was very important then. The Dolominas, the feminist movement. It all started then to enter my life, or I entered the movements, and it was a great time. Yeah.
Which pop groups or musicians stand out for you from those years, and why?
Well, for certain, the Beatles.
Why the Beatles?
At that time, I loved the text. I used marijuana. I loved the life that was had so many more colors than I realized before. And I think I loved the music, and then also that I liked very much that my father was important in my life. He was also, because he was from classical music. We went to classical concerts. We went to the concert hall and everything. But then he listened with me to the Beatles, and he also said, that is really good, Justine. That is really something. So he recognized the quality.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And of course, the Rolling Stones. Yeah.
It was an era where it wasn't just pop music creating a new genre. There was that fusion, that movement into politics, social commentary. What were the strands that were important to you, the political strands that emerged in those years between school and university? What were the political themes that were around in society that really got you going?
Many things. So I started to live in a community, because we talk. Well, it was also talking, smoking, long evenings, nights, to talk about gender, to talk about power structures, to talk about how we all are human beings and we should make space for everybody. So why have your own washing machine? Why have your own kitchen we can share? Mm-hmm. That all was so important at that time. And it was very different from the way my family. So there also became a distance between me and my family, because my parents, my father first, my mother followed him, thought I went too far.
Mm-hmm.
I nearly entered the Communist Party, but at the end I didn't do, because it was Labour's Day and there was the first May feast, going there with my friends whom I lived with in the commune. We went there and there was this banner, abonneer u op de waarheid. So you have to abonneer. What's it in English?
To join? I don't
Join,
know.
okay. Join the paper, The Truth. That was the name of the communist journal.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, already then I thought, that's impossible. You cannot join The Truth. So then I said, no, that's nothing for me.
What did you mean? What did you think? I cannot join The Truth. Do you mean The Truth, the journal? Or do you mean some discourse about truth?
Right. So I realized when you think you have the truth, you're wrong. That's not possible. You can never have the truth, and you can never join the truth. So I thought, that's not me. I was also always questioning, doubting, hearing more voices. That I think that always has been with me. Always. I'm born that way. That's what I feel.
But we'll talk more about, I've written down truth. We'll come back to that because I think that you might question truth, but I think you're talking about institutionalized truths.
Institutionalized truth.
Rather than personal truths.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. It can be truth-worthy. That's
okay.
That's another thing.
What did you do at university? How did you decide to go to university?
Well, because I could learn very well. I think the whole stream goes, you have to go to university, and I agreed because I had joy in learning. So I wanted to do it. I thought it is a good idea to do it. And then I wanted to study first in Amsterdam. And then later on it became Leiden, which is closer to The Hague. And I decided for Leiden. And I started to study social pedagogy.
Social pedagogy?
Pedagogy.
What does that mean in practice?
It's about development of children, about schooling, and then also being aware of the social constructions around that. That was a study then in the Netherlands. You could do that.
Was it with a view to becoming a teacher?
No, it's not to become a teacher. It's studying education, studying schooling, studying societal movements around children. Yeah.
And did you follow through with that?
Yes, I finished it, but at the same time I also started clinical psychology. So I finished both of them. Yeah.
And what did you do then?
Well, I'm from a generation that's very happy in many, there were so many possibilities. So I didn't have to find a job, the job found me.
Uh-huh.
So I was invited to think in a big psychiatric hospital to reflect on the education of psychiatrists.
Oh, wow. What a job.
Your
first job.
My first
to
job.
Reflect on the education of psychiatrists.
Yes,
in
and
a big
also,
psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, and to organize trainings and things like that for them. I was 25.
And how old were they? Were they just new psychiatrists?
Yeah, they were my age.
Okay.
They were my age, or a bit younger, or a bit older, but around my age.
So what was the very first bit of training that you organized for them?
Well, what was important for me in university was then there was a big wave of family therapy already then. So I didn't start in the individual setting and then went to systemic thinking. I started in systemic family therapy thinking. That's where I started very early on.
So what year was that then? Even in university when you came across this?
71.
I mean, that's an unusual story, don't you think?
Yeah.
When you talk to most systemic people, they came through, whether it was social work or psychology or nursing, working with individuals, and then had a chance meeting with somebody who happened.
For me, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
I did individual stuff, analytic stuff, because I had to do it to get registered as a psychotherapist. I had to do it. But I started with family therapy, family thinking, systemic thinking. I started there because in the university there were some very inspirational teachers. It also were the years that Mnuchin came to the Netherlands to train people in the Netherlands. My teachers were trained by Mnuchin. And that was the time that from his training in the Netherlands, he wrote the book. So his first book was Families of the Slums. His second book was Families and Family Therapy. In the Netherlands, it was gezinstherapie, family therapy. And it came out earlier in the Netherlands in 1973. The first print, and it was because the Dutch students said you have to make a book from this. This is very important.
From the training courses.
From the training courses, yes. So this book is from the training courses. Maybe he also did training courses, but he was in Amsterdam. Good friends of mine, they don't live anymore. There he always stayed with Pat, and that book was in 1973 in the Netherlands, 1974, the first print in the States.
This is another important story because there's also the story that everything happens in English first, that English, whether it's American English, Australian English, British English, it gives rise to the knowledge. But this is a story.
It's not the truth.
No, that's not the truth. So Mnuchin came to Amsterdam, did some training with people over time.
Yeah.
And out of that training, the Dutch family therapist said, you need to make this into a book. And it came out in Dutch and was translated
in English.
Into English.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I think in the Netherlands, we were early in picking up this important movement. And I was happy to be a student with my professors were very enthusiastic about this new wave in psychiatry, in psychology, and I picked it up and I thought this is very important. And then I had a student, I was an assistant of a professor. He was asked to do the training for psychiatrists in the big hospital. And he said, I have a very talented assistant and I can ask her if she wants to do it because I have no time. Anna van der Hart was it. And then they asked me and I said, well, I can come and talk about it. And I thought, why not? That's when you're young, you think, wow, I can do that. Why not? Later on, I think, how did I do it? So I came there and I had a talk and they said, okay, let's go. So then I was invited to make a training for psychiatrists and I did a lot of systemic stuff in it. So then we read Bateson and things like that and we did trainings. That was the way it is. And then I was invited because they started there with an ambulance setting, not only the clinical setting, the ambulance setting.
What does ambulance mean there? Like walk-in?
That you are not sleeping.
Outpatient.
Outpatient. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Outpatient setting, and I was invited to work there. So that was then coming from the first job. That was a real job for coming there every day. And it was also a setup with a lot of family therapy. So that was 75, October 75, yeah.
So you were working there. What was your job title in the walk-in service?
Family therapist.
Right. Yeah,
75.
75.
Yeah.
Well, it said what you did, what you could offer. And did you mainly just work with families, or did other professionals ask you for help or consult with you?
Yeah, so I made a training in family therapy, but together with a colleague, with Kees Doorn. So we made trainings for psychologists, social workers, psychiatrists together, groups of training, and I started to do my own training in family therapy with Dutch trainers because I came from university, but I didn't do proper training. So then I did the training in family therapy, I did supervision in family therapy, everything. And then it turned out that to become a psychotherapist would give me a lot more possibilities in my career. And I thought, I had a hunch that to have influence, to have power could be important. So then I had to do also the individual perspective and psychopathology and things like that. That came after that. I did all of that because I wanted to have this title to
So
make
you
things
couldn't
possible.
have the title of psychotherapist if you were just trained as a family therapist, because these days in the UK, the title is now systemic psychotherapist. But in those days, for you, and in the Netherlands, it was family therapist.
But in the Netherlands, it's still
else.
a problem.
Is it?
It's still a problem. A lot of social workers or other they are family therapists, they are systemic therapists, but they do not have the same hierarchical level, and they're not paid the same, and it's still a big problem. It's very sad. Yeah.
Did doing the individual training add anything that you think is important for systemic therapists?
Yeah.
To know about? What sorts of things?
I think I loved studying the development of children. Just the development, what a baby learns when they start to speak, when they start, where there can be hang-ups in development, what can happen to children. So to notice children better and the development of children better, and not always think this is systemic, that this is the parents, but to be more aware of development of children, and then also the child in the parents, in the grandparents, so also that this awareness, they have had this development, and there could be some problems in development that are not directly organized by the system, but that can also. So I still think it's important, if you think systemically or in families, that you also notice the individual and what this human being brings with him, her, it, they.
Our trainings, all of these trainings in individual schools of psychotherapy or family therapy or psychiatry, they're all still very young professions. And so when we put all the life cycle training into family therapy, we thought that was a very important thing to do, and it is.
Yeah.
But actually, child development's really important.
I think for me it's very important.
And looking at other factors, neurotypicality, neurodiversity,
that's
so many
it.
things.
That's
child
it.
protection. A lot of people, of course, who've trained in social work have these other trainings. But people who've trained as teachers or who've trained as in something else or nothing else, there needs to be a common base. I'm sure that's right. So I also did a child development training as part of my training in psychoanalytic, working with children psychoanalytically.
Yeah.
So that I saw the importance of that too.
So then, and I made also a switch to work in child psychiatry. I worked for 5 years intensively in child psychiatry, also to be even more able to notice children where they are, the neurodiversity, how it works out in families, and to have the children in the center. So I think I'm really happy that I started with family and systemic thinking and then added the individual. I think that's the good way to do it because it's a different entrance.
Having children in the centre has been centering children has been an important expression in all of your work.
Yeah.
And it's very different from working in child psychiatry, where child psychiatry is about the child has the problem, whereas keeping the children in the centre of something
totally
means that
different.
there's more around the child.
So I was able to change the way they did first sessions. So I said in the child psychiatry, I also had difficulties because it was always the child as a victim of the bad parents talk. Maybe they did other words, but also, but the conclusion is this is not a good mother, there's not a good attachment, it's not a good this, it's not a good that, and it's not helpful for me. So then I was able, because they wanted me also to change things. And then we did the first session always with as much people as possible. So the children, the brothers, the sisters, the parents, maybe the grandparents, or an auntie or whatever, to start with the whole and then to go to the individual things. And I think they still do it that way.
It's such a simple entry point. It's such a simple thing to change, to say, look, let a systemically trained person do the first session, provide a report or a story for the other professionals to take into the team, and that could be just the simplest, and has been the simplest intervention in a professional service. Not when and whether we refer this family for family therapy.
No,
just
it's not that. It's not that.
No.
Because in this first session, such a lot. Also, you do not have to concentrate immediately on all the problems, but just to get to know the family a bit. It's very helpful.
Did that come from your training? That sense of not just focusing on problems, but getting to know people a bit, getting to know the family, who's who. Where did that come from? It sounds to me a bit like if you provide a nice, good food and wine, then some problems will find a way of getting resolved.
Yeah. It's coming from my family, yeah. I think so. And also from my training, I also think so. And then also in the Rudolf Steiner philosophy, the child is never a problem. Because all children, they have a philosophy. I do not agree, but it can be helpful. No child is here for nothing. They have something to do in this life here on the earth. So every child, in essence, is a good child. And you have to support this biography of this child and to support it. Because it's not there for nothing. That's the philosophy.
I love that expression. You have to support the biography of this child.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It just puts a moment in time in a much longer context. And I don't think that the way child and family mental health, as it's called in the UK, services work now, think about the kind of long story, the biography of people, of different members of the family, let alone whoever's allegedly got the problem that's led to the referral. So how would you describe your influence in the field of child psychiatry from a systemic perspective? In terms of, it sounds like you were both in a very planned and organized way delivering a program, but it must have been like throwing a lot of seeds to the wind and seeing how they land.
Yeah, because I cannot say I did that and then that happened. So it's not that simple. It's also whom you meet, who wants to work with you, where is the good chemistry in a team and things like that. Because I think that I co-founded the Lorenzhuis in Haarlem in the Netherlands in 1984. That is a center for systemic therapy consultation and training. We trained an awful lot of colleagues there. And in our training, because I think also I started it together with a psychiatrist and I worked in psychiatry. By then, still, I worked in psychiatry. I did it part-time, the Lorenzhuis in the beginning, later totally. There were a lot of psychiatrists entering our trainings. And I'm very happy about that.
Hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we have. Please get in touch and let us know what you liked, what resonated for you, and who else you might like to hear more from. Please feel free to share with others in your personal and professional network. Rate this show on your platform, and let's create our Systemic Lives community.